All right, welcome to another episode from the Chart Reader. So I'm going to look at SOUNDHOUND and SOFI one more time. I want to talk about SERV on this one as well. So SERV and SOUNDHOUND have a little bit in common, right? They were, I don't want to use the word unknown. I think unknown is fair for SERV, maybe not really for SOUNDHOUND, but they both made significant moves when NVIDIA stepped in and said, I'm going to say it one more time, when one of arguably the biggest companies in the world decided to say, hey, I'm going to put some money in these 4 random letters, all of a sudden they're not really as random as they were before, right? And when I zoom out, obviously SOUNDHOUND made that move. SERV is, almost made that same 5x move really quickly, arguably a lot more too, right? So a little bit of a commonality there, right? And then SOFI, I came back to sound for no reason. Excuse me, SOFI, I felt something was going to happen. I talked about this 50 moving average line on the last video. Wow, it's been almost 2 weeks since I've made a video. I think this was the last time I covered these. Nonetheless, it's done some interesting technical things, right? We make a good move to the 200. We make an unfortunate rejection, but hey, lo and behold, the lines hold it, right? So that's going to be the story here. And then really across all 3 of these, I'm going to look at NVIDIA. I think NVIDIA is going to be really important. I'm going to look at QQQ, which is essentially what NASDAQ is, right? You can see QQQ, you can see NASDAQ. They're the exact same chart, essentially. And then I'm going to also look at the S&P 500. Okay, so that's the goal for this. Obviously, the focus is going to be the 3 stocks themselves. But hey, we'll look at the auxiliaries, the things around it as well, all right? So before we do go any further, though, and I give you more of my thoughts and opinions, what are we going to do? Same thing we always do, right? We'll take a look at the daily and the weekly to see how these things are setting up short term. We have our 5 moving averages. There are horizontal support and resistance lines that I do draw manually myself. And then when we are done up here, we'll use the MACD, RSI, and volume as our lower indicators. Hey, really quickly, if you can, please subscribe to this channel. Share this video online with your friends. Comment good or bad if you disagree. Look, anything you can do helps so much with these YouTube algorithms. But hey, just being here, giving me your time, oh, I am so grateful for it all right? So SOUNDHOUND. A lot going on here. And really, I think the biggest thing that I have to talk about is this 100 moving average line. All right, so clearly a big start to July. Doji right here, and then a very big candle right after. You know, there's one thing I often say is when you get a doji, the candle after generally tells the truth, all right? And clearly, to see this thing just go down like that is actually rather crazy, all right? So to me, this is a little bit of an anomaly right here, to say the least, all right? One more time. Big candle, a really interesting doji right here, and then a very good candle afterwards would actually lead me to believe there would have been more, all right? I think the one thing that pops out is just look at that thing, right? The RSI was at 90. 90 is a little high, but you know, I'm really surprised to see the follow from there, all right? Interesting to see where we're at right now. So we basically go from the top of all the moving averages to essentially the bottom. You can see we actually do lose all 4, but I say it on the way up, I say it on the way down. You need confirmation. We need more than just a single candle to either get really excited or really scared. And I think this is a good example of that, right? You have this is a really bad day. Let's take a look. The low of the day, the 4th line right there, is $4.54. We basically closed just a penny higher at $4.55. Like, I can't even see the wick. Oh, there it is, right? I had to super zoom in right there, right? But that's a ugly candle. And again, I would scare most. But hey, we're looking for confirmation. Didn't come. Interesting candle today. Again, what am I seeing? I'm seeing a doji right there, right? Not the most textbook, like obviously that's a little bit more textbook, but hey, to me, I'm seeing a start down here at 5, a 7-hour trading day that took us all the way up, all the way down, only a couple pennies above that 5 that we opened at, right? So this was an indecision day to me, and really most of this week has been, right? You can see 3 basically out of the 5 days were dojis, and then this was basically a we're gonna lose it, and this was a no, not just yet, right? So an interesting indecision day, and really I think a lot of it has to do with NASDAQ. All right, so what's happened with the NASDAQ, right? We had some earnings that were a little on the ugly side, right? And again, I'm not here to say I watched them and I agree or I disagree. No. All I know is Tesla, TSLA, had a pretty hard gap down from earnings. That's not a good thing. Clearly it's stayed horizontal. I'm not here to talk about Tesla. That's a hard gap down right there. We're also going to look at Google, Alphabet, the exact same pattern, right? So QQQ, exact same pattern. NASDAQ, exact same pattern, right? So that was an ugly little moment right there, right? A little bit of a similarity with Nvidia, but I think the one thing to note is Google is you can argue it's in the AI sector as well, because clearly Google has its finger on everything, but in a lot of ways I don't think of AI sector when I think of Google. At the very minimum, Nvidia makes semiconductors. You can actually literally see the word right here, right? Like they are making the chipsets and they're making the boards and the brains and all that, right? Like that's not what Google does. Google isn't selling hardware, right? So I don't really put Google, and obviously not Tesla, in the same boat as Nvidia. So yeah, obviously when the NASDAQ goes down, I'm always going to think to myself, tech is going to go down, and it's going to influence Nvidia as well. But the point of it really is, look, those 2 bad earnings weren't really in this sector. And hey, maybe that's why this has been able to hold a little bit, right? But end of the day, I gotta look at NASDAQ, and I'm seeing a bounce of the 100 so far. All right, this is a really strong line. We've used it once, we've used it twice, we've used it 3 times. You can argue that's a single moment right there. That it depends how you want to interpret the use of the line, right? But basically, since this whole year has gone, we've like I said, in my book, hit it and use it at least twice. Once right there, twice right there. This is essentially the 3rd hit of it, but I'm not saying we've used it just yet. All right, this is a good day, but this is a doji. This does not count to me, right? We can easily fall back down, or we can use the power of the 100 moving average to go back up. All right, the one thing I'm going to say is I really want to get back over that 8 moving average before I get excited. But hey, maybe the move from like that 460 to like 470, maybe that'll do a little bit of good right now. All right, so overall, I'm still a little uncomfortable, but hey, if NASDAQ can use that 100 well, and again, my theory is that Tesla and Google, the 2 really bad earnings that just happened, those are a little bit outside of the sector, and you know, so on and so forth. I do believe SoundHound earnings are around the corner. That's kind of why I was like fumbling right there with my words. I'm grabbing my phone to take a look, because earnings are on 8/8. 8/8's not that far away from us, right? I think that's about 2 weeks away. Yeah, roughly speaking, it's about 2 weeks. So you can say earnings are still a little far, and you know, we have some time to make some moves. I really believe a lot's going to have to do with, one more time, what happens with this 100 moving average. Can we use it to bounce up and go all the way up to 475, roughly 470? Or are we coming back down to 455? And man, believe me, that's a bounce or die point, because it'll be a fast drop to 440, maybe even a little lower to the 430s right there. All right, so it's all about the 100 moving average there. And then with Nvidia, I mean, it's kind of the same thing, right? We're not quite at the 100, but I need to either get back and over that 119, 120, or I got to believe that we're coming down to 103, right? So watch these 2, even if you're not in SoundHound, all right? So What am I looking for on, and you know, it's funny because we literally talked about that, give me a second, this morning. I know I did. Yeah, I talked about this right here. So, where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Right here. On its own, and I'm about to say the SoundHound needs to break that 530, but NVIDIA and the NASDAQ movement will dictate what SOUN does. All right, that's really what that single sentence looked like. It took almost like 2 minutes to say all that, right? But that's in my head where I came up with that. All right, you can see where I said that 530, right? My line is at $5.27. Give me a little bit over that, 530. Hey, if we can get into this channel, I would love to go from 530 to hopefully all the way up to 580. Maybe we'll slow down, yeah, around here. Maybe like 660, give or take. I'm not even going to draw that line, though, because I don't think it's green, 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 red, 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 green, 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 red, 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 nothing, 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 green, 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 red, red, red. It could be really fast, actually, right? So for me, I would love to get into this little movement. MACD's maintained the positive. And hey, I just talked about it. We had a 90 RSI. That's super, super high. We come down to a very, very reasonable 59. Hey, let's even just go up to 80. We don't have to go back up to 90. There's a lot of room, right? Volume's probably the one thing that's been missing. All right, we made this good little pop. We got 3 good days over the line. All of a sudden, we're right back under that 50-day volume line, right? I'm just asking for average. Just be a little bit better than average plus, right? I don't need you to be an A student. Just average plus, right? And good things will happen. We need 25 million shares. Let's bring out the trusty calculator. If I need 25 million shares in a 7-hour day, look, we're looking for about 4 million shares. I'm rounding up a little bit, right? I'm hoping for about 8 million to 10 million by that second hour, right? And hey, if we can get 10 million by the second hour, that's most of just Friday with what, almost 5 more hours to go, right? So yeah, volume's going to be big here. I think that's about it here. Let's take a look at the weekly. What's worth the weekly? I mean, look, there's a lot of moving averages. There's all 4 of them, right? There is no 200, right? So that's pretty tight right there. That's obviously pretty tight right there. I'd like to escape from the moving averages. The last thing I want to do is live in the moving averages, all right? So let me know your thoughts. Let me know your opinions, even if you disagree. Let's take a look at SERV. So I'll be real honest with you. SERV is actually a stock that is making me a little bit depressed, all right? So I love the Discord. I every now and then put tickers. That's not really what I'm known for. Look at the, nope, give me a second, give me a second, give me a second. Right here. All right, so on 7/18 at 10 o'clock my time, 10, 11, 12, that's a little bit close to 1 o'clock, right? And it's 4, okay, I'm saying too many words right now, I apologize. On 7/18, I said, take a look at SERV. This is the 7/18 day that I found SERV, and lo and behold, we've gone all the way up. You can see it. I did not play it at all, and I'm actually secretly trying to ignore this, all right? But it's basically the same story, and it's really, really important to look at what SoundHound did, all right? Hey, actually, really quickly, if you can subscribe, if you can share, hey, it does wonders with the algorithms. It'd be much appreciated. With SoundHound, this was the moment right here when we learned NVIDIA made an investment. You can actually see it was roughly the same range, right? I'm assuming it was probably this day. This was probably the day that we gapped up. This day closes at 225. When I look at SERV, I think it was around 250 when it closes. Yeah, 263, right? So roughly speaking, it was that same range, all right? SoundHound makes a move from there all the way up to 10 something. And SERV has actually done better. SERV has gone all the way up to what looks like a peak of 13 right now, right? This thing actually does roughly the same 10 peak and reverse, but SOUN doesn't make that same upward correction, right? SOUN, oh no, sorry, right here. Oh, it does. Look at that. Interesting. I take my words back. SOUN makes a run, makes a correction, and makes a second run. SERV has made the run. I don't think this is the run, the correction in the second run, but hey, maybe it is. We'll find out together, right, as it goes. But I think more than anything, what I would be looking at, because to me, it's made the run. It lost the 8 moving average. It regains it, bounces, and goes, right? That's not really what I think I saw on SERV. SERV hasn't even come back down to the line, right? So we might still have a little bit more up. The one thing to say, though, is we've got a 91 RSI and a doji today, all right? So, but man, look at that. Okay, goodness. There's a couple things like running in my head right now, all right? 91 RSI is very, very high, all right? When I look at the last 4 days, though, we were at a 94, a 92, and then a 90, right? So it got a little higher. I remember saying 94, but not too much, actually. So I think that this 91 in combination with this doji, I actually really think there's a good chance that this thing comes down to 10 on Monday, maybe 1040 where I'm clicking. I don't know the math behind the lines, but yeah, that looks like the slope of this thing. And hey, it kind of looks like it'll probably open around 990 on Monday. So I think around 10 to 1030 is my guess for where this thing's going to come down on Monday, all right? From there, if I'm making the same SoundHound assumptions, right, we're going to come to it maybe a little bit under, and then hopefully we see that recovery, right? So I would do this. I would put my line right here, okay? If it's going to follow SoundHound, because again, it was NVIDIA that said, I'm going to invest there. It's NVIDIA that said, I'm going to invest here. It's going to go up. It's going to come down to roughly 750 as that line keeps going up. And then hopefully 750, 8 moving average, and go, right? Like that was the exact same SoundHound move. Let me do something real quick. Let me do something. I'm going to pause this for 1 second. 1 second. Okay, I'm back. So I took a screenshot of what we were just looking at just so I can do some like John Madden drawing. So this was the original point. It makes a move. Obviously, we don't have that doji thing going on, but we basically use the 8, lose the 8, use it and go, right? And when I'm looking at SERV, and then I'm going to bring back the screenshot and put it here, we've made the break. We're going up. You can arguably say we've probably went that horizontal and used it. We've gone up. I think we come down. I think we hit this. Go, go. So hopefully this white line is roughly this. You can actually see, or maybe I could see. I saw it when I paused it. Let's go back to SoundHound. On the big candle, it's not actually the top that does it. It's about there. Maybe what I'll do is draw a secondary line and just put it like right there. That's the SoundHound line. All right, I don't know what line to, I'm going to color this something. Let's color this. Let's do yellow. No, yellow is my gold color. Wow, I'm spending too much time there. Let's do it. That's going to look like, let's do yellow. Yellow's the best one. That's no moving average color. Okay, so this is my assumed support. This is my SoundHound copy. Hey, look, as long as we're over the 8 moving average, this thing's okay, right? My high RSI is the one that scares me. I see the growing volume. That was the third thing that kind of saw my attention. But hey, we are significantly lower than we were up here, right? So I think that's the only thing to say. The last thing, last thing, I think, look, if you lose the 8, you drop to the 20. I always say if you're over the 8 and the 20, you're actually bullish, right? The problem is when the 8's up here at literally $8 and then you fall all the way down to the 20, down to 4 something, dude, that's a 50, dudette for my girls out there, that's a 50% drop, right? No one's going to smile at a 50% drop just because some chart reader dude said, hey, it's actually still bullish, right? So yeah, it's good over the 8 and the 20, but hey, when the 8 and the 20 is that bad a fall, you know, am I really looking for the 20 support? Nah, not really, right? So just kind of keep that in your back pocket, all right? SERV, this is a very new stock. It's robotics. It's NVIDIA connected, right? When you get this much volume during a time when you never had it before, silly things happen, all right? And hopefully you can use the moving averages and the technicals to kind of guide the movements, all right? So Yeah, I guess we'll look at the weekly real quick before I say my goodbyes. Yeah, we still haven't been around for 20 weeks. I'm not going to count this. I think it's close to about 20 weeks. I think that this orange line will get drawn soon. But yeah, all we have is the 8, and we're really high from it, right? Excuse me. And again, a big doji right here, and not enough information for me to know what the RSI is on the weekly. But I mean, this either continues all-time highs, or like I said, these are my low numbers here. And hey, I can't give you a good educated guess on what the all-time high. There is no resistance. There's no like good line I can draw, right? I would say, I mean, realistically, as long as it stays over that, over 1205, right? Because that, what, 1213? Let's just raise it a little bit more if I can. 1212, good enough. As long as we're over 1212, hey, that's not too shabby right there, actually. And it's hard to think, you know, bad thoughts. So let me know your thoughts. Let me know your opinions. Even if you disagree, let's end it with SOFI. I'm a little longer than I was expecting to, but hey, why not? You know, it's interesting. I've actually, I don't want to use the word hated on this stock, but I have been wildly bearish on this stock until my last video, and it was all about this 50 moving average line. And it's funny because this was not the prettiest attempt of the 50 moving average, but there was enough there for me to start to believe. So I'll repeat what it was, and then like I will talk about what I think is going to happen going forward, right? But real quickly, if you can please subscribe, hey, if you can please share this video, it does wonders with the algorithms, all right? So SOFI, look, sorry to zoom in again. One more zoom out, sorry, right here. We have been, since basically the entire year started, under this 50 moving average, this red line right here, all right? There's been a couple earnings since that's come, and there were some attempts to break it, couldn't do it. Attempts to break it, couldn't do it. Trying to, and I'm talking about that red line the entire time, right? Even a couple right here, right? This 50 moving average line is a very difficult line to break. The 100 is that much harder than this one, and then the 200 is the hardest, right? I really liked what was happening here, and a lot of it was because of this doji and the candle after. Now, this isn't the biggest and baddest candle after, but you know, you can only hit a line so many times before it's gonna give up, right? Like the strongest person in the world can only fight off so many bears before the bear's gonna win, right? And hits it, and this was enough, right? You add the fact that the MACD was starting to look good, the RSI was starting to look good, and really, this was one of the nicest consistent volume moments across any of the battles with that 50 moving average line, right? So I believed, and lo and behold, the belief turned into an attempt of the 200 moving average, all right? You know, it's really interesting to see that candle break it and this candle confirm. The one thing you can look at is the RSI was at 83, but I'll be honest, that's easy to get fooled on. That I don't know if I made the move on this one or not, but yeah, that probably would have fooled me if I was in it. We failed the 200, but again, look, just zooming out, most of the year we've been under that line, right? So at least since right here, easy to say that, right? So 200 is a very difficult line. It makes sense, but hey, a combination of basically the 100 moving average and the 20 plus a good little support line that I'm not too sure how long I've had for. That was a good one. That was a good one. Actually, I remember that 702 line. I remember talking about that 702 line because it did a bunch of stuff there. It did a bunch of stuff there. And then like that was an important line. I do remember talking about that back in the day. But yeah, this so far is actually still looking good. All right, so let's talk about what I'm thinking immediately. Look, I'm seeing the 20 moving average still want to go up, right? I'm seeing an RSI that, like I said, was in the 80s, came back down to a very healthy 60, hopefully goes back up. RSI never lost the positive. It actually never slipped under the red line, right? So it's not bad. The one thing, I'm going to echo it again, this has had bad volume for most of the year. This was a good little moment right here. This was a solid 2 weeks of not just people buying, but buying at least the average that we're looking for, right? all of a sudden we're back under the line. All of a sudden it's a mix of reds and greens. Like, we need consistent volume. We need to live in that like 35, 40 million range. That's what we're looking for. Let's just use 35, because in a 7-hour day, that's simple math in my head, right? You need 5 million shares per hour. That's what we're looking for. If you can hit 5 million shares an hour traded, you're in a good place to do good volume things, all right? So I think volume's really going to dictate a lot of this. I don't know if SOFI earnings are coming up. I'm actually going to check my phone real quick. Let me see if I see anything. Sorry, give me one sec. Here we go. SOFI. Oh, earnings on the 30th. That's next week. All right. So on Tuesday. Couple things. Look, I'm always afraid of earnings. All right, I'm not ashamed to say that earnings are a crazy gamble. I've seen bad candles on good earnings. I've seen good candles on bad earnings. It's silly. All right, so be careful. And look, don't forget, we've had 2 bad earnings on this stock. This one right here, I lost money on. This one right here, I did not, because I avoided it. All right. I am a big fan of riding the confirmation up or avoiding the avalanche down. So far, we've seen 2 avalanches on 2 bad earnings on SOFI. All right, so let's see what the market says, and let's attack otherwise. That's actually how I would play it. All right, be careful with the earnings on the 30th. Really, what we're looking for. Oh, you know what I'll do? I'm going to lower this line. I am. I'm going to lower it to here. Right there. $8 is our number. I think I'm going to lift it just a little higher to that. I'm taking the top of this right here. I think that's the main one I'm looking at, 6.8. I'm just kind of looking across. Looks like there's a nice little horizontal. Maybe $8 was the better line, as I'm just kind of seeing the more places it hits. But look, I think at that point it's semantics. Get me well over 8. I think 8.12 is nice and well over 8. And all of a sudden, I'm going to put my next line probably right there. Yeah, half of that guy, almost the top of that guy, almost half of that guy. Yeah. 8.12 to 9.30 is actually a pretty nice channel to ride right there. Let's take a look at the weekly. Yeah, look at that. That 8.12 would put me nicely over. And again, even $8 would put me nicely over the 50. I like that candle too at 9.30. Look, it's the top of that right there. It's almost the half of that one right there. And then, oh my goodness, a bunch of just red, green, 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 red, red, red. My goodness, that's too big a line. And please don't have $14 dreams on a $7 stock. But this is a good weekly. It's only a 53 RSI. It's trying to peek into the positive MACD. Again, just missing that volume. All right. So let me know your thoughts. Let me know your opinions. Even if you disagree, hey, thank you so much.